Om Dakshinasya Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryanta Smarya Guru Parampara Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaran Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Parijnanashrama Shri Guru Shankara Parijnanashrama Shankara Satguru Keshava Vamana Krishna Panduranga Ananda Parijnana Guru Satyo Jata Shankara Satguru Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So here from the 25th sutra onwards, which I introduced in the last session, the 25th sutra of Narada Bhakti Sutra, Devarishi Narada wants to give the importance of bhakti as a very, very integral part or a very foundation of all other sadhanas. He says that no sadhana is complete. Sadhana for what? For moksha. All our sadhanas are for moksha only. Of course, there are people who are doing various karmas and other things for the sake of material benefits as priorities. We are not talking about them. Here, we have already understood that Narada Bhakti Sutra is talking about nothing other than Parabhakti. And Parabhakti or Abheda Bhakti is ultimately abiding in the very Ishvara Swarupa, which is I myself. Jiva Ishvara Abheda Rupena, I abide in that, and I am literally as though resolved in Ishvara, without irrespective of the upadhi, irrespective of my upadhi. And here in the 25th sutra, Devarishi Narada says that bhakti is greater than knowledge and karma. Okay, that's what he's saying here. He using the word yoga. We read that yesterday. Satu karma jnana yogyebhyo api adhikatara. Sa means that bhakti. Tu definitely. Tu means definitely, verily, indeed, of course. All this, is the meaning of tu. Sa. That bhakti indeed. Karma jnana yogyebhyo api adhikatara. If you really translate it word by word, bhakti is greater than karma yoga or jnana yoga. That is the actual literal word to word translation. But we have to understand it very clearly. Now, jnana karma yoga here means when I am doing any karma, laukikam va, vedikam va karma, if I don't have Ishvara Anusmaranam, if I don't bring Ishvara into my life in all my actions, whether it is knowledge or whether it's any kind of an action, becomes something which will be only resulting in material benefits. Not only that, any kind of a knowledge, if I don't involve Ishvara in it, or any kind of a karma that I'm doing, Vaidikam karma va laukikam karma, if I don't involve Ishvara in it, if I don't take Ishvara Anusmaranam and don't involve and don't, offer my actions, whatever I'm doing, and whatever I get from that the phalam, as long as I do not take it as karma phala, as Ishvara prasada, if there is no Ishvara involved in it, then my karma and my jnanam becomes very dry, very, very dry. For example, I may feel that why do I need to bring in Ishvara if I want to understand the Shastra? I have the knowledge, I have the language skills, I'm a rational person, I can understand what is said in the Shastras. Why should I bring Ishvara into it? That knowledge becomes a very dry knowledge. A knowledge without bhakti is not knowledge at all. A knowledge without bhakti, even the knowledge of the Vedas, even the knowledge of the Upanishads, merely becomes a verbal or an intellectual knowledge. It cannot become a sadhana for moksha. Why? Because in such a knowledge, there is so much of ahankara. I know, I have studied so much, I am a scholar, I am able to really defeat everybody in a debate. So there is so much of ahankara, so much of, there is so much of arrogance in that knowledge. Knowledge with bhakti makes me humble. My ragadveshas are nullified or neutralized. My kartrutvam gets diluted. My bhoktritvam gets diluted. And I see everything as Ishvara, which actually melts my ego, melts my ahankara. That is the knowledge which really takes me ultimately to moksha. Otherwise, what happens? I always see a distance between me and the total. I have that ahankara or the arrogance that I know. I have studied so much. My knowledge will be only a scholarship, that's all. It's a scholarly knowledge, but that will never become a sadhana for moksha. If knowledge has to become a sadhana for moksha, which knowledge is a sadhana for moksha? That is paravidya, not aparavidya. Paravidya means what? Study of the Upanishad, study of the Vedas. For the sake of what? Understanding this Ishvara, understanding the nature of Jiva, understanding the nature of Jagat, and ultimately to understand what is the reality behind me, the Jiva, behind the Jagat, and behind what I call as God or Ishvara. Therefore, a knowledge or a jnana yoga, see, when you say jnana yoga cannot be without bhakti. Because jnana yoga is knowing about that Ishvara or Brahman. So, without bringing in Ishvara, there is no jnana yogi, no jnana yoga. Without Ishvara, there is no karma yoga. Karma yoga becomes mere karma. What is it that differentiates a karmi from a karma yogi? That's very clearly Bhagavan Krishna discusses it in chapter 4 and chapter 5. Very clearly Lord Krishna discusses that what is the difference between a mere karmi. He may be doing all the karmas that are necessary, all the Vaidika karmas according to the Varnashrama dharmas. But if Ishvara is not brought into it, what happens? I can never be a karma yogi. I'll be mere karmi, wanting to do the karma for getting some kind of a limited result, some kind of a limited worldly result. That is where I am. Therefore, when he says Satu, karma jnana yogebhyo adhikatara means without bhakti, without a strong connection between me and Ishvara, without Ishvara anusmaranam, without bringing Ishvara into my life, into every action of mine, into every, into every aspect of my knowledge, there is no karma yoga, there is no jnana yoga. Without bhakti, karma yoga is mere karma. Jnana yoga is mere jnanam. And the ahankara gets stronger and stronger and stronger. I know, you don't have to tell me anything. I know what it is. Why do I need Ishvara for that? That is what, a person who is a scholar may argue. I told you in the previous session also that there are people who say, I live a life of ethics. Ethically I live. Why should I bring in prayer? Why should I bring in Ishvara? Why should I pray to that something which I don't know whether it is there or not? So I asked that person, are you sure you are there? Yes. Are you sure there is something called as the world around you? Yes. And you say you are living ethically? Yes. What are ethics? What ethics is what is called as dharma in our Shastra. And what is dharma? It is nothing but Ishvara. And you say the whole thing is run by laws of Ishvara. I am going according to the laws of the society. I have not transgressed any law. I am doing whatever is to be done. I am living a very, very ethical life. That means you are a very dharmic person. And what is this dharma? What is it? That is, the laws of, when you say the various laws, you may say physical laws, you may say magnetic laws, chemical laws, electrical laws, thousands of laws. What are they? Ultimately, it is knowledge. And what is that knowledge? It is nothing but that consciousness, Ishvara, behind all this. So, they accept the laws, but they don't accept that laws is Ishvara. They say they are ethical. They don't accept ethics as dharma, which is nothing but Ishvara. Therefore, we have to understand one thing, that without connection with Ishvara, any action from my side is only going to strengthen my ragadveshas. My chitta mala is only going to increase. My ahankara is going to get stronger. Then nothing becomes a sadhana for moksha. So ultimately, what is it that as a human being, what are my sadhanas are all pointed to? Moksha. Correct? To be free from this samsara, to be free from this emotional, psychological dependence on this samsara. And what do I need for that? I have to have a strong connection with Ishvara. Yes, Nirguna Brahman, Arupa Ishvara Bhakti comes later. When I understand that everything is Ishvara, then I am not really worried about whether Ishvara is in the Rama form or Krishna form or Gana. Let Ishvara be taken in thousands of forms for us, for the Sanatana Dharma. Even an animal is Ishvara. Even a tree becomes Ishvara. Because of what? We see that Ishvara or consciousness in everything around us. So everything can be a alambanam for us as Ishvara. So, without bringing Ishvara into one's life, initially it is Saguna Ishvara only, because I am not prepared yet for understanding the Nirguna Brahman consciousness existence as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. I don't have the preparation of my mind to understand it. And initially, I have to see, I have to take Ishvara in some form which is an alambanam to me. And a time comes when I go beyond that form also. That does not mean that I'm not a bhakta. Initially, I'm a bhakta because I want to hold on to something till I'm able to walk alone. And a time comes when I'm a parabhakta or a jnani, I clearly understand that Ishvara has no upadhis. Every upadhi that I have taken is only an alambanam for my sake, to connect me to that something which I don't know what it is. Therefore, sa bhakti tu karma jnana yoge bhyo api adhikatara means mere karma, mere knowledge. I have a chance of a great fall. There may be somebody who knows better than me. There may be somebody who is a better karmi than me. And there may be a time when whatever may be the extent of my knowledge and the extent of my karma, what doing what, but then ultimately there is a limit to that, isn't it? And when jnanam is supported by bhakti, that jnanam or knowing, understanding becomes jnana yoga. When karma is backed by bhakti, a karmi becomes a karma yogi. Therefore, a karma yogi cannot exist without bhakti. An upasaka cannot be there without bhakti. A jnana yogi cannot be there without bhakti. And therefore, bhakti is the very foundation, because I'm connecting with that Ishvara. I'm connecting with that Brahman. in whichever form I want. And that connection is bhakti. It's not a separate path. It is something where I connect to Ishvara in every activity of my mind. In my sadhanas towards moksha, whether I take yoga, Ashtanga yoga as a sadhana, whether I take karma as a sadhana or jnanam as a sadhana, for this to become a yoga, it should become a very spiritual activity, not a mere laukika activity. And it is bhakti. Bhakti, in moksha sadhananam, bhakti eva gariyasi. He said, who? Bhagwan Shankaracharya said in Vivekachudamani. Among all the sadhanas for moksha, bhakti excels. Why? Without bhakti, no other sadhana can stand. Bhakti is the very support of all the sadhanas. Therefore, in the 25th sutra, Devarishi Narada said, Satu da bhakti tu karma jnana yoga, or karma jnanebhyo abhi adhikatara. Okay, your jnanam is nothing without bhakti. Your karma is nothing without bhakti. Karma becomes karma yoga when Ishvara is brought in. Jnanam becomes a jnana yoga when Ishvara is brought in. Karma becomes, I am doing this karma to neutralize my kartritvam by offering it to Ishvara, making myself prepared for the next step. Jnanam with bhakti becomes jignasa, wanting to know that Ishvara. Without wanting to know that Ishvara, what is my knowledge? All my knowledge becomes a very limited knowledge. So he says, this is the greatness of bhakti. That is literally the foundation. Bhakti is the foundation for every sadhana of a mumukshu towards moksha. If I don't accept Ishvara, then I cannot be a karma yogi, I cannot be an upasaka, I cannot be a jnana yogi. Moksha is not possible for me. Because among the three, the Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, if I am not willing to accept even one of them out of this, then what is my sadhana? What is it that I am wanting to know? Because Jiva and Jagat are both mithya. Then what is it that I want to know? The truth I want to know. What is the truth? The consciousness, the existence, that Chaitanyam behind the Jiva Jagat, which is none other than Ishvara. Therefore, karma jnana yogebhyo api adhikatara sa bhakti. Then, Sutra 26 says, phalarupatvat. Bhakti is the very final result of itself, he says. Phalarupatvat. Okay. Bhakti is the very nature of the final result. Means what? Moksha is that the result for which we are doing all our sadhanas. Correct? So all those sadhanas, for what are we doing? For moksha. And what is moksha? Bhakti, ultimately that para bhakti is nothing but moksha. Right? So that's why Lord Krishna says, out of these four bhaktas, Artharti, then this the one who has the one who's Artha Bhakta, Artharti Bhakta, Jignasu Bhakta, Jnani Bhakta, Mama Me Priyaha, Mama Atma Eva Saha. That Jnani is nothing but me. Means what? Para Bhakti is knowledge. What knowledge? Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Ishvara. I am not different from Ishvara. This is the final knowledge. And that is Parabhakti. So, Parabhakti is very moksha itself. Therefore, he says, Phalarupatvat. This bhakti is of the nature of the result itself. Initially, my bhakti may be that you are different, I am different. Remember this, which I keep saying. Initially, Ishvaraha asti aham tasya bhaktosmi. Different. You are different, I am different. Then, when My mind is, because of my karma yoga and bhakti, when my kartritvam becomes diluted, bhoktritvam becomes diluted, raga, dveshadi malas are purified from my mind, then what happens? My mind has one pointed focus. My mind is subtle enough to understand, to see that everything is nothing but Ishvara. Sarvam Ishvaramayam Jagat. At that time, what do I say? Ishvara eva asti. And then, when the final stage moksha is what? Saha Ishvaraha ahameva asmi. Okay? Tvameva tat tat tvameva, said the Guru in Kaivalyopanishad. That is what it is. Therefore, phalarupatva, because bhakti is of the very nature of the final result or the goal which we are doing the sadhana for. Therefore, what? Bhakti is nothing but moksha. That initial bhakti which becomes ultimately very, very, that it may start with an artharthi bhakti, but that total, subtle, total involvement with Ishvara, where I don't see any difference between me and Ishvara, that is the Parama Parabhakti, Jnani Bhakti. So Bhakti is in the form of the final result itself. Then in the next sutra, 27th sutra. So Ishvarasya api abhimana dveshitvat daina priyatvacha. So here, if you take word by word meaning, Ishvarasya, for that Lord or Ishvara, api, even the Lord Ishvara, abhimana dveshitvat. Ishvara is not influenced by my abhimana. What is the meaning of abhimana? When I don't bring Ishvara into my life, I have done it. This is my job. I deserved all this. I have come up by my shoestrings. I have, acquired this whole empire. I'm a scholar of this. I am, on the board of every thing, every committee that, deals with any of these things in the world. Recently, we had a very good an international convention of diabetes, and one of the delegates who was a speaker who said that I'm in the directorial board of everything, anything, anywhere that happens dealing with the diabetes. I am in every committee in the world. The exact statement. I'm in the every committee in the world wherever any consensus about the treatment for diabetes and related disorders is going on. Now, what do you call this? Is it, arrogance, or what is it? So what is said here is, Ishvara can, in 1 second, your abhimana, your arrogance, your, what you call as the ahankara, can literally be broken into pieces. And what here he says is, Ishvarasya api abhimana dveshitvat. If you literally translate it, it means that even Lord doesn't like a bhakta with abhimana or arrogance. It's not that God doesn't like. By my abhimana, by my arrogance, I am bringing a difference between me. I am bringing a distance between me and Ishvara. Ishvara is everywhere. Ishvara wants to be with me, inseparable from me, but I am the one creating the distance. When my arrogance increases because of all these things, that I am a great karmi, I am a great upasaka, I am a great jnani, when this kind of abhimana in myself, in my whatever you call jnanam and other things increases, what am I doing? My ahankara itself becomes a barrier between me and Ishvara. Fine? So what he says is Ishvarasya api abhimana dveshitvat. Means Ishvara also doesn't like that abhimana. What does it mean? It's not that he doesn't like, he doesn't care. Ishvara doesn't care. Ishvara is everywhere. If I want to bring that Ishvara into my life, it is my responsibility. Ishvara is always there. Ishvara's grace is always there. If I am not open to Ishvara, if I am not open to the grace of Ishvara, when the light of, when the light of sun is coming in, if I close my eyes and sit and say, the sun is not blessing me, what is the point? Ishvara is everywhere, Ishvara's grace is everywhere, but when I am arrogant, when my abhimana in my own knowledge or in my own karma or in my own intelligence becomes more, I'm creating a barrier which is totally non-porous. I don't allow Ishvara into my life. I don't allow Ishvara's grace into my life. So, and on the other hand, Dainya Priyatvacha. So, Ishvara is fond of a meek or a helpless person. This is what it looks like when you read this, but that's not the way we should interpret it. Dinatvat means what? Dina means nothing is mine. Oh Lord, everything is yours. Today, if I am where I am, it is your grace, isn't it? I was born in a certain family to a certain set of parents. It was given to me. I did not choose that. Ishvara gave it to me. And if my parents had a value for education and put me into some good, system of education, and I became capable of a certain thing in life, it is given to me. It's not that and if I say that I'm a very intelligent person, without internet, many people have opportunities, but they don't make it. This intelligence given to me, isn't it? I could have been born with some mental deficiency, mental retardation or something. I could have been born in some family where there is no value for education. I could have been born in some kind of a culture where there is no value for our dharma or shastra. Then where am I? So, everything is given. The situation is given. The opportunities are given. Yes, then my prayatna is there. There is no doubt. It's not that Ishvara is, I have to just keep quiet and everything happens. No. Everything is given to me, but in those given circumstances, I have to put my efforts. My free will, my effort has its place, but that's not the only thing. I have to be aware that what is mine here? I have done everything. I have done everything. I have got everything. I have come up by, how did I come up by my bootstraps? Because there was Ishvara's grace in that. There are so many people who are trying to come up their bootstraps and are not able to. They may be more intelligent than me. They may be more intelligent, more capable than me. Why? Is it luck? No, it's not luck. It is Ishvara's grace. Therefore, when my abhimana is less, ahankara is less, and when I'm willing to let Ishvara into my life, that is the dainyam, or that I am, hey Lord, you are the only one. Whatever you give me, I accept it. That is my dainyam. Dainyam means what? The capacity to accept what Ishvara gives me. But in my arrogance and abhimana, I don't even see what I have got from Ishvara. What is it that has been given to me? That's why my Vedanta Guru always used to say, allow Ishvara into your life. Let Ishvara be more and more in your life. What does this mean? Don't create barriers for Ishvara and the grace. Ishvara's grace is everywhere. I just need to be open. If I create barriers in my mind by my kartritvam, bhoktritvam, ajnanam, that which we are already doing. We are already that. And by something, by my, knowledge or this or that or whatever it is, like I can become so arrogant, proud. It doesn't take much time for another person little better than me to crush my arrogance, isn't it? What has happened to all those people who were greats in their lives? Either they are dead and gone, or nobody remembers them, or today they are nothing. Isn't it? So what he says, Ishwarasya abhimana dveshitvat. When there is abhimana, when there is arrogance, because of whatever it is which I take it as my own achievement, I don't give the credit that it is Ishvara's grace that has kept me, brought me, put me where I am today. And I have to utilize this opportunity and do my best. I have to put my prayatna as a mumukshu, given everything. I have been given, I have been born in this culture, in the Sanatana Dharma, where there is a value for this. I have been exposed to the scriptures. It's Ishvara's grace. I have been born in a Guru Parampara where 300 years of Parampara is backing this tradition. Isn't it? Is that not given? Is it not Ishvara's grace? And what does it mean? That, yes, I have to recognize it. I have to recognize that this is Ishvara. And yes, the last is my swaprayatna. That also how? Bhagwan, you have given me all this and I will do my best. But what I do also, I offer it to you. My best is also not really the best. But with you, with me, you with me, whatever I do as an offering to you, that is going to be the right thing. The best or not, I don't know. That's the right thing. That is how I'm going to lead my life. So he says that, this is that bhakti. So he says, Ishwarasya api abhimana dveshitvat. Ishvara does not have any dvesha towards any abhimani or any arrogant person. No problem. Doesn't matter. Ishvara does not say that, he's hurt. Ishvara is not hurt by a few arrogant people around. Doesn't matter. Daina priyatvacha. It doesn't also mean that Ishvara is expecting all of us to be helpless and meek and literally begging for Ishvara's. No, even that is not the meaning. What it means is that let me not create barriers between me and Ishvara. The more and more my kartritvam strengthens, the more and more my bhoktritvam strengthens, the more and more my arrogance strengthens, the barrier between me and Ishvara becomes so wide that I fall out of Ishvara's grace. I fall out of Ishvara's grace because my mind, my upadhi has a certain capacity for something. It can't last forever. If we see some people who are continuously doing the best, and doing the right things, it is only because they have surrendered themselves to Ishvara and Ishvara is using them as instruments. We see so many examples in our day-to-day life also. I don't want to bring any names into it. You people know it. So what he says is Ishvarasya apimana abhimana dveshitva dainya priyatvacha. Here, what he's saying that, when I'm a devotee, then I'm soaked in Ishvara's grace. I'm soaked in Ishvara. Ishvara's, there is no barrier between me and the Lord. And that is the ultimate greatness of bhakti. And when I'm totally surrendered to Ishvara, the barriers become lesser and lesser. The arrogance becomes lesser and lesser. Kartritvam, ragadveshadi, malas, all those start slowly diluting. And the distance between me and Ishvara becomes less and less and less. I start perceiving Ishvara's presence, that consciousness, the Chaitanyam, that presence of Ishvara in everything. In every aspect of life, in every small thing in life, I start seeing how it is Ishvara's grace that is functioning. And when that happens naturally, bhakti becomes the very foundation of all my sadhanas. Jnanam, karma, ashtanga yoga, they may be sadhanas, but without bhakti, they have no role as sadhanas. So moksha sadhananam bhakti eva ghariyasi. It doesn't mean bhakti alone means it's not a different thing. It is the very inherent strength in every sadhana. It is the very inherent life in every sadhana. Karma yoga is lifeless without bhakti. Jnana yoga is lifeless without bhakti. Therefore, bhakti is that which is the ultimate, what you call as that which is the foundation of all the sadhanas. Whatever sadhana you may take towards moksha, bhakti is that. Okay. Now, in the next few verses, in the next 5 or 6 sutras, in the next 5 or 6 sutras, now Bhagwan Narada, Devarishi Narada, he wants to talk about, are there any means to this bhakti? Now we have talked about bhakti as the very foundation of all the means or sadhanas towards moksha. Correct? In that case, is this bhakti itself has some other sadhana to reach it? Is this bhakti itself is something which needs to be started with something else? Is there some way of starting this bhakti? Is there some way of kindling this bhakti? What is it? Is something necessary for that? If bhakti is the ultimate basis of everything, then is it something that I have to do to get into this mode of bhakti? What is it? What is it that I should know? What is it? That is what Maharshi Devarshi Narada wants to talk about. Are there any other sadhanas which can lead you to bhakti? Or are there any other things as stepping stones to bhakti? That's what he's talking about here in the next few verses. So we'll take up the verse that is the next sutra, sutra number 28. So here, Narada is explaining the view of various other, I won't say scholars, various other jnanis. As he explained earlier, the definition of bhakti, Devarshi Narada talked about Parasharya, that is Veda Vyasa's definition. Then he talked about Garga's definition, Maharishi Garga's definition, talked about Shandilya Rishi's definition. Then he gave his own definition. So here now, he also wants to talk about, is there something that can lead to bhakti? We are talking so much about bhakti, but that connection between me and Ishvara, is there something that can lead me to this bhakti? And he gives various opinions and views of other rishis, and then he gives his own meaning or definition of it. So here, what are the factors that can bring in this connection between me and Ishvara? That is what is going to be given by Maharshi. Okay, that is Devarshi Narada. Okay, so now he says, Tasyaha jnanameva sadhanam ityeke. Okay, so some jnanis say Tasyaha, for that bhakti, Tasyaha, for that bhakti, jnanameva sadhanam. Knowledge alone is the means for that bhakti. Now, just in the previous, 2 verses, we saw that jnanam without bhakti is not possible. Fine? Now here he says that one of the factors which makes a bhakta a serious bhakta is knowledge. Now what is the meaning of this? Are we going round and round in circles? No. Now what he says here, tasyaha, for that devotion, for that bhakti, jnanam eva sadhanam. Jnanam means what here? We have to be aware of something to connect to that, correct? Isn't it? I have to be aware. For example, I should be aware that there is a place like that, and then I have a desire to go and see that place. Isn't it? So, for an ichha to be born, there should be a jnanam of a particular thing, right? Otherwise, how will I have the ichha in it? Somebody should tell me, oh, that place is beautiful. I visited that place. Now I didn't know that earlier. Now I have the knowledge of that place. And there is an ichha which rises in me. Oh, I should also visit that place. And then what happens? Kriya happens. Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Then I start thinking about it. I start planning about it. And I start doing something to fulfill my ichha. Okay. Now, bhakti is what? A connection between me and Ishvara. Correct? I should at least know that there is something called as Ishvara. If I'm aware of that, then there is an ichha in me to connect with that Lord. Correct? So here when he says, tasyaha jnanameva sadhanam iti eke. Some people, some rishis, some wise people say that, the one who is aware of it. Yes. If I'm aware, if I'm born in a culture, whichever culture it may be, in every culture, there is something called as God. Okay. It may be called by different names. It may be connected by in different ways. In an African country, they also have something. They have also their gods. And how do they connect? They connect with dance and music. Some kind of a wild dance they do, and they say, this is my connection between Ishvara. Okay? Every community, every, human system, to a large extent, has this concept of God or Ishvara. When you know that there is something like that, then only there is a possibility of my connecting with it. Okay. So even to develop a connection or bhakti with Ishvara, I should know what that Ishvara is. And that is the work that is done by all our Puranas and other things, where right from childhood we are exposed to this, that there is something called as God. And the vibhutis of God are talked about. Ishvara. God means Ishvara. Vibhutis of the Lord, of God, Ishvara, are being talked about. There is explanation of various kinds of vibhutis of the Lord which are explained. And therefore, what happens here? I realize that, yes, there is something called as Lord. There's something called as Ishvara. And I want to know more about that. I want to know more about it. What is that Ishvara? Is that Ishvara also like me with the name and form, with the body? Is that Ishvara also has a place like where I'm staying? Does Ishvara also stay in a place? Is Vaikunta and Kailasa and all these are they really the abode of the Lord? What is it then? If that is the thing, then what is the difference between me and that Lord? If God also has a body, if he also stays in a particular place like me, then what is the difference between me and the Lord? What is this whole universe? How is this functioning in such a precise manner? What is it that is functioning here? Is there something? So, when right from my childhood or when I start thinking for myself, I see that there is something which is other than me, something which is greater than me, initial, because of which Everything is going on. It can't be a random thing. When I see the seasons coming one after another, the right type of fruits coming in the right season, the right type of flowers flowering in the right season, when I see all these things, when I start thinking about it, I start wondering there must be some kind of an intelligent principle behind this. What is that? So, my connection with that thing, which we call as Ishvara, can happen only if I have an idea that something like Ishvara exists. Okay? Therefore, it is said here that tasyaha jnanameva sadhanam. Okay? And yes, to some extent it is correct. When I know the glories of Ishvara, when I hear about the Vishwarupa Darshanam of Ishvara as a story in my childhood, what could that be? How could Krishna become so huge? What is the thing? I want to know about that, what it is. Everybody says, prostrate before God, light a lamp before God. What is this God? There is something called as Lord, God, and different names are given. Who is this Krishna? Who is this Rama? What is this God? Now, I know that there is something and I want to know about it. And the more and more I start knowing about it, the connection between me and Ishvara becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Therefore, here he says, some of the jnanis say that one should know that there is something called Ishvara, Brahman, Ishvara. Then only I'll have the interest, then only I'll have the curiosity, the jignasa to know about it. That is why an Artha Bhakta, when he finds that some things go according to what he wants by mere prayer, an Artharthi Bhakta, when he takes the Lord's help in the success of his endeavors, when he's starting, slowly, slowly he starts thinking, what is this Ishvara? All the time I'm finding that, yes, I'm approaching something which I don't even know. Okay? Maybe Tirupati or this one, wherever it is, but what is it? Who is that Tirupati Timappa? Who is this Rama I'm going asking for help? Who is this Hanuman whom I'm praying every day, asking for? Who is that? What is that? What is the nature of that? Therefore, it is the knowledge of the presence of that. There may be some cultures where there is absolutely nothing like that, then they may not even have even the idea as to connect to it. But most of the world communities, most of the world, everywhere, there's something which refers to some power beyond me, which is called as God or Lord in their own way, in their own words. They may represent something. In every group, in every religion, there is something which represents that particular thing. Ishvara is represented in their own way. And ultimately, I want to know what it is. It no longer remains a mere religious symbol, but it becomes a spiritual, goal for me to understand what it is. What is it? Let me know. If I have been brought up from my childhood on the concept of God or Lord or whatever, let me know what that is ultimately, isn't it? And as I become connected more and more, then the real bhakti manifests itself. The connection is nothing but bhakti. Therefore, he says, tasyaha jnanameva sadhanam. Okay. In Bhagavad Gita also he says, tesham jnani nitya yuktaha eka bhaktir vishishyate. Okay. Priyo hi jnani no ati arthamaham sacha mama priyaha. We'll see that in various chapters, the 12th chapter, 7th chapter, we'll see this. So he says that bhakti, to get into bhakti also, that which triggers bhakti in me is the knowledge of the presence of the Lord. Then in the 29th sutra, next sutra, he says, Anyonya ashrayatvam iti anye. There are other people, other acharyas, other great rishis who say that jnanam and bhakti are mutually dependent on each other. Anyonya ashraya. The knowledge of the presence of Ishvara. Ishvara asti iti knowledge makes me go for deeper into bhakti. I go deeper into bhakti. The deeper the connection becomes, the deeper the bhakti becomes, the desire to know this Ishvara becomes more. The more I know Ishvara, I become more strongly connected. I become a deeper and a better bhakta. The more I know Ishvara, I know the glories of Ishvara, the more I know, then my bhakti also becomes stronger. The stronger my bhakti becomes, I want to know more about Ishvara. And ultimately, this anyonya ashrayam of jnanam and bhakti ultimately leads me to that parama bhakti, parabhakti, abheda bhakti. Therefore, Narada says that, yes, they are, jnanam and bhakti are anyonya ashrayitvam. They are dependent on each other. The more and more secrets I discover about Ishvara, the more and more fascinated I become by the knowledge of Ishvara, the more and more I become more and more serious a bhakta I become. My bhakti is no longer just a testing waters anymore. My bhakti becomes a dhrida bhakti. The more the knowledge of Ishvara, my bhakti is dhrida. Ultimate knowledge of Ishvara in the form of Ishvara is that consciousness behind everything, and I am that Ishvara. That is the Parama Bhakti. So, the highest knowledge is highest bhakti. The highest bhakti is the highest knowledge. Therefore, knowledge and bhakti cannot be separated from each other. They are mutually dependent. One increases the other. This increases the other. It is kind of a mutually improving circuit. So, anyonya ashrayitvat. So, there is an anyonya ashraya. So, then, that is why it is said that, a Parama Bhakta is a very joyous person. A Parama Jnani is a Parama Bhakta. A Parama Bhakta is a Parama Jnani. We talked about the gopis in the last session, isn't it? So every jnani is ultimately being a Parama Bhakta. A jnani Bhakta is the happiest person, the one who understands everything as Ishvara. When I see the whole thing as Ishvara, and I am that Ishvara, it is an unbreakable, inseparable connection, which is the ultimate bhakti, and that is the ultimate jnanam, which is moksha. So it says that anyonya ashrayitvat. So you cannot separate jnanam from bhakti. So which happened first? It's very difficult to say. It's like a circle. Whether bhakti came first and jnanam came later, or whether jnanam came first and bhakti came later, it's not a linear connection. It is a circular connection. Okay. Then he says that, Swayam, next, Sutra 30. Swayam phala rupata iti brahma kumaraha. Okay. So, Swayam phala rupata. Swayam phalam rupata iti brahma kumaraha. Okay. Bhakti is its own phalam. We saw that already. Okay. Phala rupatvat. We saw that just today. Which one was that? We saw in the 24th, 26th sutra. Just today only we saw phala rupatvat. Ultimately, that is bhakti is moksha, phala rupatvat. That bhakti is none other than moksha. Moksha is none other than parama bhakti or para bhakti or jnani bhakti, or bhakti of a jnani. Abheda Bhakti. So Swayam Phala Rupat iti Brahma Kumaraha. And this Bhakti Swayam Phala Rupata. Phala Rupata what? As moksha. Swayam Phala Rupata iti Brahma Kumaraha. Brahma Kumaraha can mean, the sons of Lord Brahma. It can mean Sanat Kumaras also. Brahma Kumaraha, it is said, plural it is said. It can be Narada also. But here, since the sons of Brahma, Brahma Kumaraha, we can say that maybe this is referring to the Sanat Kumaras, Sanakadi Sanat Kumaras. If it was Brahma Kumaraha, it would have been, we could have said, Narada is saying that. But here, Swayam Phala Rupata iti Brahma Kumaraha. That is Lord Brahma's sons, the creator Brahma's sons, Manasa Putras, who are the Sanat Kumaras and Devarishi Narada. They say, what do they say? They also say that it is, this bhakti is its own phalam. Initially, the apara bhakti leads one to para bhakti, which is nothing but jnanam, which is nothing but moksha. Therefore, the bhakti itself is its own phalam. So the 26th sutra is repeated here. Swayam phala rupata iti Brahma Kumaraha. This is what the Sanat Kumaras, Manasaputras of Lord Brahma, describe this as. And then he says here, he brings an example. Maharishi Narada brings an example here as to bhakti and jnanam cannot be really separated. One without the other is not possible. It's just because they're like two sides of the coin. Jnanam, the more you learn, the more I go into jnanam of Ishvara, as my jijnasa improves, and as I go more and more understanding the nature of Bhagavan, Ishvara, proportionately my bhakti also increases. As my bhakti becomes stronger and deepens, my knowledge of Ishvara also increases. Even if you take the saints of our, Santavanis of various saints, whether it's in Hindi or in Marathi or Kannada or anything, you'll see in every, bhajan, in every kirtan, ultimately that final moksha is explained. In everything. I was just thinking that sometime, when I listen to this Krishnashtami Mhantis, which are sung every year during Janmashtami in our mutt, those things, those few small, bhajans which are talked about in praise of Lord, if you see in them, there is so much of Vedanta in them. There is bhakti, no doubt. It's pure bhakti. But if you really look deeper into the meaning of each and every manti in that, there is pure Vedanta in that. Pure Vedanta. And it is fabulous to listen to them because, it really, you start seeing there's no difference between moksha and bhakti ultimately. They are one and the same. You cannot say that jnanam alone is leading to this. No. They are like two sides of a coin, one enriching the other. Jnanam and bhakti cannot be separated. Then, of course, the example is given here. We'll see in the next session. Om nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaha avastha shambhavi mestu prasannostu gurus sada sarve bhavantu sukhinaha sarve santu niramayaha sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkham apnuyat. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om tat sat.